This was a team that lost the face of the franchise. On paper, it should have fallen apart. Instead, the numbers point somewhere else entirely. A defense that turned into one of the toughest in the East. Right after trading Trae Young, Atlanta's defensive rating jumped all the way to 9th in the league, and the data shows exactly why. No more building around one guy who has to do everything. This is a team that got rebuilt with intent. Using our own numbers, we're breaking down how the new-look Hawks actually got here, and the structural problems still sitting underneath it. Start with the roster teardown, because there's no talking about this Hawks season without it. Atlanta traded away Trae Young, the face of the franchise. That wasn't just a trade. It was a full teardown of the team's offensive identity. CJ McCollum stepped in as the new point guard. Behind him, Gabe Vincent came over in a separate trade mid-season. What matters here is how usage changed. Young held the ball, ran pick and roll after pick and roll, and controlled the offense by himself. McCollum does the opposite. He cuts the time the ball spends in his hands, scores when the shot's there, and moves without the ball the rest of the time. That shift alone got the whole floor moving again. But the real driver behind the defensive jump is the wing group. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, signed and traded in from Minnesota the summer before the season even started, broke out completely. Then Corey Kispert arrived from Washington as part of the Young deal, and suddenly the perimeter looked different. Alexander-Walker became the primary point of attack stopper right away, turning ball pressure into fast break points on the other end. Kispert does something else. His shooting stretches the floor and opens up driving lanes for everyone else in the paint. The front court changed too. Clint Capella left, and Onyeka Okongwu took over as the full-time starting center, bringing mobility and coverage the position hadn't had. Jock Landale came in behind him as a veteran backup. All of it, every one of these moves, was set up to build a system around Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. The offense shares the ball fast now. On defense, everyone switches without hesitation. Atlanta went from an isolation-heavy team built around one star to a modern, transition-first team built on efficiency, and that overhaul shows up everywhere in the stat sheet. Before we get into the numbers, here's how to read this chart. The top row is official league rankings, straight from NBA.com. The bottom row comes from our own model, NBASDB, ranking the top 10 players on the roster by cumulative ability score. In the middle, you've got the ability chart, mapping out the team's overall shape on both ends of the floor. What this data lays out is a real trade-off, and a problem hiding underneath it. Start with defensive rating. Atlanta went from 18th last season to 9th this year, putting them inside the league's top 10 defenses. Our own defense index backs it up, 13th to 4th. However you slice it, the defensive foundation here is elite now. The point of attack pressure on the perimeter drove most of that jump. Those chasers wreck a team's first option before it even gets going, and it shows up directly in points allowed. The point guard change added something else. Turnover rate went from 22nd to 8th. That's not a small move. It means Atlanta walked away from the high-risk passing that defined the Young era and built something far more careful with the ball. But there's a crack running underneath this whole system. Even with a top 10 defense overall, second chance points allowed only moved from 12th to 10th. Paint points allowed barely budged, 21st to 20th, still bottom 3rd in the league. And here's the real problem. Block rate collapsed from 4th all the way down to 18th. Atlanta lost its rim protection. Once the perimeter defense gets beaten off the dribble, there's almost nothing left at the rim to clean it up. Fast break points allowed actually got worse, dropping from 21st to 23rd. Atlanta gave up offensive rebounding 13th down to 20th, specifically to get bodies back in transition, and it still isn't stopping the bleeding. On offense, three-point shooting jumped from 14th to 6th, and effective field goal percentage cracked the top 10, moving from 17th to 10th. Still, with all that perimeter firepower, offensive rating only moved from 17th to 14th, middle of the pack, nothing more. They shoot better, they turn it over less, and the offense still isn't taking off. The reason comes down to two things. The paint lost its push without a real inside presence, and giving up offensive rebounds means Atlanta is handing away one of the most valuable possessions in basketball, the second chance. A sharp group of perimeter defenders and an efficient shooting system on one side. A back line that folds the moment it gets tested, and an interior that's given up on second chances on the other. That tension is the clearest picture of exactly how far this Hawks team has come and exactly where it stops. What's on screen now is play type data from NBA.com. How often the team and each player run each action, ranked league-wide. This data lays out just how completely the offense got rewritten once Atlanta lost both its point guard and its interior anchor in the same offseason. The biggest swing is in pick-and-roll possessions run by the screener. Last season, Atlanta ran that action more than any team in the league. This year, they're down to 19th, and the scoring efficiency on those possessions fell all the way to 25th. Ball handler frequency dropped too, from 11th to 17th. The old Trae Young to Clint Capella lob game is simply gone. One thing didn't get better after Young left isolation. Frequency stayed at 29th, right where it was last season, and efficiency is still dead last at 30th. Without a player who can just break a defense down one-on-one, Atlanta shifted the entire offensive structure somewhere else. What replaced it is a screen-heavy system built on constant player and ball movement. Handoff frequency jumped from 11th to 4th, with efficiency climbing to 5th. Off-screen actions went from 19th all the way to 3rd, with efficiency at 9th. CJ McCollum, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Corey Kispert are all moving constantly, pulling defenses sideways instead of standing still. That's actually pushed spot-up attempts down from 17th to 22nd. But the shots that do come off spot-ups now come from real advantages. The efficiency there jumped to 6th in the league, elite territory. They stopped chucking from a standstill and built a system where you only shoot once the defense has actually broken down. The strangest contrast in the whole offense sits in post-ups and putbacks. Putback frequency dropped hard from 8th to 22nd because the whole team is sprinting back on defense instead of crashing the glass, a direct trade-off for limiting points allowed. But in the half court, post-up frequency climbed from 29th to 17th, and efficiency there jumped to 5th in the league. Jalen Johnson is driving that shift. He uses his motor on the perimeter to force mismatches, then bullies smaller guards on the block, and it's producing 1.46 points per possession, an absurd number for a half-court staple. The old predictable pick-and-roll is gone. What replaced it is a high-efficiency post-game and a moving shot profile, built at the cost of the offensive glass. That trade-off defines where this offense stands right now. From here, we're breaking down individual growth on one chart with 3 layers stacked together. Quick guide on how to read it. The blue line in the center is league average, the red line is where the player sits right now, and the 3 layers map out ability across categories. Down in the number table, pink means top 50 in the league, star territory. Yellow is the top 10, the highest tier there is. On total points, 780 is the bar for a starter. 720 is what you want out of a rotation piece off the bench. With that scale in mind, the point guard picture flips completely once you factor in the change at the top. CJ McCollum, now the full-time starter, clears that 780 starter threshold with room to spare. He's a genuinely competitive point guard in this league. What's worth noting is how different this looks from last year's setup. The old point guard sat in the top 10 league-wide in assists, but defense was a real weak point. McCollum flips that. Assists drop out of the top 10, but defense jumps all the way up into star territory, top 50 in the league. His three-point shooting improved too, and he's holding turnovers to just 1.8 a game. That's a point guard who can actually guard his position, and that shift toward efficiency over ball dominance is a direct line to the team's defensive jump overall. The problem that's left is depth. Gabe Vincent, the backup, sits well below that 720 bench threshold. The bigger question is whether Atlanta can hold on to the discipline and defense McCollum built once the second unit checks in. That gap is the single biggest issue at point guard right now. The single biggest breakout of the season sits at shooting guard, where a clean split in roles pushed the whole offensive profile somewhere new. Nickeil Alexander-Walker had his breakout year as the full-time starter, clearing the starter bar by a wide margin and turning into one of the better wings in the league. The numbers back it up. Scoring efficiency and three-point shooting both sit in that top 50 star tier. Take his scoring 20.8 points a game on 39.9% from 3. That's the kind of season that wins you most improved player, and it did. Add in the perimeter defense he's always brought, plus a true shooting percentage of 61%, and you've got a legitimate second option on both ends of the floor. Last season, scoring out of this spot was inconsistent, not enough perimeter firepower, and the half-court offense would stall out because of it. Alexander-Walker fixed that. His outside shooting and his drives are steady now, and he's covering the scoring load left behind once the old star was gone. This is a front office move that paid off exactly as planned. Corey Kispert, off the bench, doesn't quite clear that bench threshold. Even so, his three-point shooting stands out. He fires off handoffs and off-screen actions the second he's open, and that's a real weapon. His range spaces the floor and opens things up for the front court. Between Alexander-Walker becoming the real deal and Kispert stretching the floor from deep, this backcourt has legitimate firepower on the perimeter. The data at small forward shows a clear split, Dyson Daniels anchoring the perimeter defense on one side, and a mixed picture in the rest of the wing rotation. Daniels, the primary player at this spot, has become the single player who sets the tone for this team's entire defensive identity. His defense is elite, full stop. Both his defense and steal ratings sit in that star-level top 50 tier. He earned that all-defensive second-team spot, and you can see why, averaging 2 steals a game, taking away a team's first option before it even gets started. He single-handedly closed the perimeter gap that hurt this team badly a year ago. On top of that, he's putting up 6.8 rebounds and 5.9 assists, real all-around production. Here's the interesting part though. His three-point shooting sits around 19%, basically zero as a weapon. But he's turned that into an edge. He's constantly crashing inside, and he leads the team in putback frequency. He's taken a weakness on the perimeter and turned it into hustle points in the paint. On the other side, Zaccharie Risacher, the #1 pick, stalled out. His defense was solid enough, but his growth on offense was slow. Too slow. The front office made the call in the offseason and moved him to Dallas, bringing back Lu Dort, a defender good enough to have made an all-defensive team himself. Atlanta cut ties with future upside and cashed it in for a guarantee. Pairing Daniels with Dort gives Atlanta a wing tandem that can guard almost anyone in the league. That's the move that ends up supporting the whole top 10 defense. Power forward is where Jalen Johnson has fully arrived as the new face of this franchise, and his game now defines the entire team's identity. He's the #1 option, and his ratings top every single position on this roster. After a long injury layoff the year before, he came back and played 72 games this year. Look at the averages: 22.5 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 7.9 assists. Right on the edge of triple-double territory every night. That earned him his first All-Star selection and a spot on the All-NBA third team. What stands out most is his outside shot. It used to be a real hole in his game, and now it's a legitimate threat. That's turned him into a point forward who can beat you from anywhere on the floor, and defenses genuinely don't have an answer for it. In the half court, he hunts mismatches and bullies smaller defenders on the block, and that postgame is producing elite efficiency, the true engine of this offense. Behind him, Nickeil plays his role as a versatile defensive piece off the bench. But according to the latest reports, he broke his left foot in August and had surgery. He's likely to miss the start of the new season. A star who's fully arrived at the top of the league, and an unexpected setback in the second unit right behind him. Either way, the individual talent at this spot is still carrying this team forward. At center, Clint Capela's departure and Onyeka Okongwu locking down the starting job reshaped the entire interior. Okongwu is the anchor now, holding the front court together as the clear #1 at the position. He went from a rotation piece last year to a full-time starter, and he's putting up 15.2 points and 7.6 rebounds a night. Here's the real jump. His three-point shooting used to grade out at 0, and now he's hitting 37.6% from deep. That's turned him from a guy stuck under the rim into a stretch center who can hurt you from outside too. His defensive numbers climbed as well, and he's the anchor at the rim that's holding up this whole top 10 defense. Jock Landale, who came in as the backup after Capela left, is putting up 10.6 points and 5.7 rebounds, shooting 38.3% from 3. He gives the second unit another outside option at the position. Between Okongwu and Landale, Atlanta now has 2 centers who can stretch the floor and move, and that redefines what the position does for this half-court offense. The front office is already working on a new contract extension for Okongwu, and the plan is clear. Keep him as a core piece alongside Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels going forward. This is a team that moved on from a lob-first, straight-line interior and built something modern instead. Mobile, shooting from the 5 spot. That shift is the piece that finally completes this whole rebuild. The 2025-26 Hawks traded away Trae Young, the face of the franchise, and tore down the team's identity from the ground up. Once you go through the numbers, this isn't a story about a team fumbling through a rebuild. It's a deliberate tactical evolution, with a sharp trade-off sitting right underneath it. Swapping the point guard cut down on how long the ball sat in one player's hands and managing possessions more carefully pushed the turnover rate from 22nd to 8th. On the perimeter, Nickeil Alexander-Walker broke out into a most improved player, and Dyson Daniels made the all-defensive second team. Together, they took the perimeter defense to its ceiling. Defensive rating jumped from 18th to 9th, and that's the single biggest result this whole teardown produced. The whole offensive structure changed too. The old, predictable Young to Capela pick and roll is gone, replaced by handoffs and screens that keep the offense moving. Jalen Johnson's postgame, backed up by an All-NBA third-team season, became the true half-court engine. But losing a true rim protector inside sent block rate falling from 4th to 18th, and giving up on offensive rebounding means Atlanta is handing away second chances on its own. To address that, the front office made another aggressive move in the offseason. They sent Zaccharie Risacher, the 2024 #1 pick whose growth had stalled, to Dallas and brought back Lu Dort, an all-defensive caliber stopper, along with Ryan Nembhard. Add Aaron Wiggins and the #8 pick Kingston Flemings, and the second unit's defense and depth both got a real upgrade. They did all of this while staying under the luxury tax line, and they built one of the toughest wing pairings in the league with Daniels and Dort. Heading into next season, the biggest question left is second chance points and rim protection, the same issue that went unaddressed last year. Everyone's watching the Okongwu extension talks, and how the young frontcourt covers for Mohamed Gueye, who's out with a broken foot, will decide how fast this team gets out of the gate. The days of building around one guy are over. With a sharp group of perimeter defenders and a fully arrived star leading the way, Atlanta is putting itself in position to compete for the top of the East. All of this got built under the league's toughest financial rules yet. How far can this version of the Hawks actually go next season? Let us know what you think in the comments. That's it for this one. If you liked it, drop a like and subscribe for more. See you next time.